It ain't much, but it's honest work.
Right.
What's up, everybody? It's Colby with your Sunday Satoshi coming at you live on this beautiful Sunday, on this glorious Sunday. Benjamin LeNeave, what's up, my friend? How are you doing?
Doing well. Doing well.
How
Glad.
well are you doing, dude? Talk to me. I love to hear when people are doing well.
I'm doing very well. It's a beautiful day in Colorado.
Oh
Last 2 days
goddamn!
we had a cold spell. Oh, your Bitcoin sign fall.
Bitcoin down. That's an opportunity to stack some sats. You know, when Bitcoin goes down, you got to use that as an opportunity.
By the freaking dip.
You got to buy that dip, folks.
Uh huh.
So
It ain't much, but it's proof of work.
that's right. That's right. And today is a special day. We're talking about Bitcoin. We're talking about babies. All the most important stuff. You know, you come to this channel for the wholesome content, and that's what we're about here. We're about the wholesome. We're about the wholesome content. We're about sound money, and we are about all that good stuff. We're going to talk about home birth. We're going to talk about homeschooling. We're going to talk about families. We're going to talk about community and how all these things intertwine. You need to have sound money to have sound communities, to have sound families which make up those communities. Ben, are you picking up what I'm putting down, or am I just preaching, or like, do you think these are some good topics that we need to talk about?
I think they are good topics that maybe a lot of people don't at first think about when they think of sound money or technology or
Mm,
the future. But if babies are obviously the future, everybody can agree on that one, unless you're like a transhumanist or something weird.
Klaus
But
Schwab or something?
right, and we believe Bitcoin is inevitably the future as well. So figuring out
Facts.
how economic incentives can provide an environment for
Mm-hmm.
either toxic, degenerate type of environments for communities and families, or the opposite, where things are sound, things are honest, things are
Exactly.
verifiable and trustworthy.
I love that. I love that. And so let's get it started properly, folks. At block number 786, 726. A lot of interesting things going on. And yeah, I'm just stoked to be here with you. We've had some technical difficulties that we had to work through. So I think this is episode 10, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice.
So
We need
we're
to get a
10.
counter, up on the screen somewhere or something like that.
Yes. Yes, indeed. That's a fantastic idea. And every episode we aim to get better and better. The last I just couldn't figure out OBS. You know, the
Hmm.
the homie Tatum Turnup was helping us out with technical, with trying to get OBS to work, but for some reason it works fine on StreamYard. It doesn't work super good on OBS, but in any case, let's just kind of jump straight into it. Ben, you touched on some good points that, like, we need verifiability in order to build communities, and communities are just people, right? It's an abstract um, idea of people and families make communities, and there's all kinds of different types of communities, whether you're living in a big city or you're living out in the country or what have you. A lot of
Colby,
people
where
are.
you at?
Did I disappear, folks? Ben, talk to me, Ben.
You're back.
All right. I don't think I actually went anywhere. Did I go anywhere?
On my screen, you froze for like 10, 15 seconds.
We're gonna need to upgrade your Wi-Fi or your internet service.
Is it me?
I'm just gonna blame it on you.
Fair enough.
So so yeah, like I was just commenting on how a community could mean a number of different things. You know,
Right.
it could mean
Community is a social construct, unlike some things.
it's an abstract social construct, but there's certain things that do make for sounder communities, and I think one of those things is sound money. And
Amen.
that's because obviously families, communities need resources, and it's going to be hard to raise a family when you're experiencing hyperinflation, for example. That's going to be really difficult to support yourself, let alone a family, if your money's failing fundamentally.
Right. Our whole, economy and society and, social media has been tending towards, ADHD and high time preference, instant gratification. Like, what can I get now? I can't possibly think about anything in the distant future because I'm too busy, being distracted with what's right now, or my money's losing value, so I have to spend it now or do something with it now. But
Yeah,
Bitcoin flips those dynamics.
yeah, it most definitely flips the dynamics, and you hit the nail on the head that it changes one's time preference, and there's a whole our economy more and more is built on this high time preference capitalization on people's base fundamental um, uh, dopamine hits from social media, and you know it's absolutely, you could argue most of the economy is based on these things of how do you get the fastest attention. And I heard it put an interesting way. I was listening to this video on AI, which is a whole nother topic in and of itself. Suffice it to say that the next generation and the generation after that is going to be growing up in a very different world.
Right.
And children that are 14 years old now have grown up from birth. They've grown up in a world where Bitcoin was in existence and working. So you could almost call that the Bitcoin generation, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'll have to tell my cousins that are in that age range that.
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Bitcoin gets stronger and stronger as time goes on. The Lindy effect sets in. The network effect sets in more and more and more. And every day that Bitcoin survives, it grows stronger, much stronger.
Could you remind me what the Lindy effect is?
So the Lindy effect is that it gets stronger with time. So it's like I've heard it put this way, that like Bitcoin it's been in existence for 14 years, and I've heard some people speculate that if it's around for 20 years, then it's a virtual certainty that it's going to be around forever as a monetary technology. And the Lindy effect is the longer it continues, the stronger it gets. Effectively, you know what? I'll pull up a proper definition just because I don't want to be talking out of another one of my orifices here.
Is the Lindy effect a term that was like coined, pun intended, for Bitcoin, or is it just something that they're applying to Bitcoin?
It's something we're applying to Bitcoin.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So let's see. Share. Let me share the screen. Let me try and figure out how to share the screen real quick. So share screen.
But yeah, more hash power, more nodes.
Yeah.
All that stuff just further solidifies the future of Bitcoin.
Right. So this all sounds fairly complicated, but it's a theorized phenomenon by which the future life expectancy of some non-perishable things like a technology or an idea is proportional to their current age. It proposes
I
the
can't hear you anymore, Colby, but I can see you scrolling through the thing.
Okay, cool. Just read it.
Now I can hear you.
Cool. So the Lindy effect proposes the longer a period something has survived to exist or be used in the present, the longer its remaining life expectancy. It implies a resistance to change, obsolescence, or competition, and greater odds of continued existence in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you think of any good examples where the Lindy effect would apply?
Um,
How about
let's
gold?
see. Yeah, gold,
How
absolutely.
about gold? Like, how
Gold
about
as a store of value. I was gonna say currencies in general, but we've learned that through history, almost all of them come to an end at some point, except for gold thus far, and Bitcoin, and the other current fiats that are floating around there, but they seem to be all waffling
mm,
more and more violently as time goes on.
yeah, the internet itself is a good example of the network effect and
Yeah.
the Lindy effect, and a sigma curve explosion in adoption, a parabolic technology.
Hmm. Maybe like societies, like you could say, I don't know, Western civilization, China, has an ancient history, even though they tried to destroy it, when communism came about.
And so to kind of bring it back to communities and families, you know, societies confer on generally they confer on the strongest money. The strongest money survives, and that historically has been gold, right?
Right.
And the dollar has been the world reserve currency. So societies, whether you're, you know, an Eastern country, a Middle Eastern country, the United States, a European country, or any of the other countries or nations, they're conferring like gold is gold wherever you're at, and likewise that's true for Bitcoin as well. And we went off the gold standard, and wages have stagnated. The cost of living has only risen, and that's bad for families and communities. And so, to bring it kind of back to the subject at hand, people need a good money in order to support themselves and in order to reproduce. I mean, Elon Musk, for example, has highlighted how our population growth is not sustainable.
Right.
He's pointed out that overpopulation is the opposite of the real issue, which is underpopulation.
Right. If you look at, fertility and, marriage rates and things like that, it's all, fallen off a cliff in the last 5-10 years.
And how much of that has to do with economics?
I'm sure economics plays a huge role in it. I feel like that, economics is one of those things that I think definitely affects everything in a major way,
For
but
sure.
most people don't realize it because you know, they're living in the present. But
Right.
when you start to look at things like compound interest of, you know, like we were, taught about compound interest or whatever, in middle school or high school, and they're like, if you save your money and invest it and it grows at this rate, you can be worth, it'll be worth this much money in so many years. But that's one thing that the dynamic gets screwed up on when you have inflation and dilution of your, money supply.
Word. Yeah, and inflation compounds as well. It doesn't only work for investments and savings. It also works against you with inflation, and this is why
Hmm.
most people are getting washed away for like by the tide of inflation. They're not able to swim hard enough. Most people, that is. And it's unfortunate because effectively the game is rigged against you, and that's not something that I'm saying to give people excuses. I'm
Right.
never going to tell someone that they can't be successful. I don't care
Right.
where you are. I don't care how bad things are. I believe that you can find a way to be successful. But I'm also acknowledging basic fact that the basic fact is that things are working against most people. And that's just, in my viewpoint, that's facts.
Right. Fortunately, we seem to have a potential solution.
Boom. Exactly right. So uh, let's segue now into these articles. Let's start first with the home birth one because I think that that's really interesting. I know a lot of, a few of my friends um, have been having babies. You love to see it. You love
Yes.
to see it. And my wife and I, brought a beautiful, beautiful baby girl into this world over a year ago. And she gave birth right here in this living room, which I thought was the most fantastic thing in the world. It was the best experience ever for us. Um,
That
we
is
had,
beautiful. I didn't remember that you guys had done that, but that's awesome.
yeah, and I'm so proud of my wife because she did it all natural, and she was in her element, fully. It was just the most amazing thing, and we had a couple midwives there to support us as well, which was amazing.
Hmm.
And so it's interesting that it's just interesting that I think there's it's unfortunate that midwifery is less common in the United States. It's more common in Europe.
Hmm.
But it's a really awesome thing, and if you think about it, for most of human history, women have been giving birth not in a hospital. If,
Right, of course.
and some people would argue uh, that, well, now we have hospitals and that's great, like, and that's true. Of course, hospitals are great, of course, but also hospitals are for sick people in emergencies, generally speaking. And I know this
Right.
could get me in some hot water here, um, but generally speaking, like hospitals are for sick people and emergencies. So therefore, because birth is a beautiful natural process, it doesn't always need to be done in a hospital. You can, there are resources to support home birth. And just speaking from our own experience as a family, super glad we did it that way, and would not have had it any other way. It was just the most wonderful thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. I hope to be experiencing that or witnessing that at some point in
So
the not too distant future in my life.
I'm curious when you
Ladies, hit me up.
yeah, your links in the bio.
Hmm.
So when you uh, when you get to that point in your life, then do you think that you would go that route? I don't know if we've ever talked about this. Would you prefer? Obviously, it's obviously the woman's decision where she
Yeah,
wants to be, and I just think that that's kind of what it comes down to, is respecting, you know, respecting um, and supporting
yeah. I mean,
her
I would
preference
certainly,
as such.
if I was marrying a chick that this was a foreign concept to or something, I would certainly encourage her to check it out, and let's educate ourselves on all the options, and we'll go with what you're comfortable with, of
Mm-hmm.
course.
No,
But
I'm just asking, just
but yeah,
your
I would lean that
perspective.
direction. Because I'm somebody who would be concerned that some doctors or nurses are going to be trying to pressure me into making decisions about getting this vaccinated now, circumcised, blah blah blah,
Mm.
and I would rather not be pressured on all those things while I'm trying to just appreciate the fact that we just brought a new life into the world.
Yeah, and that is one of those things where at hospitals they do put a lot of pressure on people to do things,
Hmm.
and um, and they're in like a rush oftentimes, and that's no
Right.
like no disrespect to the people that work in that industry. I'm sure most of them are great, but there is a lot of pressure on it, and also the inducing birth when they are trying to cause the woman to go into labor. Sometimes they can try and rush that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like, you know, from a dude's perspective, like, I can only comment so much. But you know, it was just an awesome thing. We did a water birth, so we had a pool right here in the living room, and it was awesome. And it was interesting to see this article by Bitcoin Magazine talking about home births and responsible sovereignty. Again, kind of tapping into the spirit of localism and community, and kind of a going back to the basics of community. And I think midwifery plays a large role in that myself. And I would love to see, you know, more support for not just women, but families, fathers. And I do think that, you know, bringing it back to Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin's a part of that, insofar as we need to fix the money. And with that comes a lot of different things.
Right. And you're not being reliant on a bureaucratic industry. You're not, you're giving yourself and your family the confidence to know that, you can do these things, you can handle these, milestones and, big events in life on your own. Yeah. And, I'm somebody who wants to, have the cows and the chickens and all that good stuff to feed myself. So
the birds and the bees, the cows and the chickens. Let's go.
Yes. Amen.
It's interesting. So in the article, it says Bitcoin, like Homebirth, is rooted in the idea of trusting oneself and one's own abilities.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah, I like that. I like that one a lot.
It all comes down to responsibility, right? And saving in Bitcoin is a way of trusting one's own ability to manage one's financial assets, not your keys, not your coins, all that jazz. But avoiding fear-based decision making. This is one thing where, from my perspective as the guy, again, I got to keep adding that caveat, right? Because I didn't give birth, but
maybe we'll do this topic on another stream in like a year or something when we're a lot bigger and we can have your wife or some female guests or something.
So avoiding fear-based decisions, right? And like that's kind of how it is approached. It's a fear. It's kind of like a scary thing that needs to be treated like a medical emergency. When that's not the case, it's a perfectly natural process, and it's not absolutely necessary for women to always go to the hospital. That's kind of a scary thing. I know for sure my wife did not want to go to the hospital.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a much more stressful environment, even though obviously they're going to invite you to get all drugged up if you like and whatever. But, especially I feel like that's something that from the man's perspective, from the father's perspective, we can speak on is that, like I said, having people pressuring you with all those decisions, constant chaos, everybody's in a hurry, a big crazy building that you're not familiar with.
Yeah, exactly. Authority
all that stuff
figures
would be stressful.
And like telling you what to do and stuff, and don't trust, verify, and back to kind of trusting trusting the process, and also and all that. So, anyways, I just thought that was an interesting kind of comparison and stuff. Also, homeschooling was another thing I wanted to touch on because, you'd be hard pressed to find a quality education in most public schools, and matter of fact, most private schools as well. You'd be hard pressed to find a quality education, and quote, like, kind of citing Dr. Gabor Mate. I like to name drop Gabor Mate. Not sure if he's a Bitcoiner yet or not, but he's written some really good books. Hold On to Your Kids, and he's written about childhood trauma and addiction and other things. Definitely.
Next, he's going to write about Hold On to Your Keys.
Hold On to Your Keys. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. But, most schools are like Lord of the Flies hellholes. And most schools are teaching people just to be institutionalized. And so, bringing it back to like personal responsibility and sovereignty and community and teaching healthy social skills and things like that, teaching how to speak, how to public speaking, how to, the learning process. Most schools, I know for one, I didn't get a quality education when I went to schools. Like, I think, what do you think? I'm kind of all over the place, but I think basically what I'm trying to say is that you need to, like, I feel it's important to take responsibility for the quality of education. And you can't just outsource it and send your kid to either a public school or a private school. Just send them to boarding school and just outsource their education. I personally feel that it's important to take responsibility for the education,
for sure,
as much as possible.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, I don't know, we could think about how education was like 150 years ago in this country or whatever, where like people had little schoolhouse, in their community, in their little town, and everybody would go there, and some lady's the teacher, somebody's mom's the teacher, and
way more local, way more in touch with who's teaching your kids and the other kids and families that they're going to school with, and
way more decentralized.
Nowadays schools are looking more like prisons than they are looking like places of learning.
Yeah, I mean, from the outside, you just look at a big brick behemoth of a building with a bunch of buses that go in and out of there. So that's pretty much also could describe a prison if you add a fence and some barbed wire.
And what? Do they reward creative thinking? Do they reward individualism? Do they reward critical thinking and good arguments? Not really.
Generally,
right?
No.
Generally, you're taught to stay in your place, don't question authority, do as you're told, shut up, memorize the answers. Nobody actually cares if you learn the material.
Get in line to go to the bathroom, single file.
Yeah, and you get some, most of the time, again, of course, there's great teachers out there, but unfortunately, most of them are fairly powerless to change the system.
Mm-hmm. Right. But, it would be a beautiful thing if we saw some kind of, revival of, homeschooling, and those teachers could all repurpose their skills into, like instructing parents on how to, more effectively teach their kids actual, school topics. And nowadays, depending on what district you're in, most public school districts, I'm sure, there's all kinds of crazy politics and, degenerate crazy kids running around. And I would not want to expose my kids to that in any way, shape, or form.
So you're interested in homeschooling too?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I went to Catholic schools, so that was maybe slightly different, slightly better than the average public school. I would actually say probably a lot better, but it's still, you know, it's still the same kind of general, model of, you know, these are the parameters.
Yeah.
Everything's very structured and disciplined. You have to, follow, stay in the lines.
I mean, they kind of have. I mean, at scale, right? They have thousands of pupils to push through the system. Of course, there's going to be standardized testing, and of course, it's going to be cookie cutter for the most part, right?
Right.
So, what do you expect? I mean, again, I think the overall spirit of what we're trying to kind of touch on this show is the spirit of personal responsibility and how that is in line with these different ethos, because that's kind of what Bitcoin's all about.
Right. And technology. Bitcoin's a technology that is, changing a lot of things. The internet certainly changes people's ability to learn in a completely,
100%.
earth-shattering fashion. So I think that kind of puts a lot of traditional models into irrelevance, even with our arguments for, personal responsibility and decentralization aside. It's just much more efficient to be able to focus on the information that, that engages you, that you're passionate about, that is actually going to be useful, for accomplishing your goals. And in school, there's just
Good God.
90% of the time I think is spent on other unnecessary, formalities or whatever.
Yeah. Most of it's a complete waste of time. Let's keep it real.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know the U.S. Department of Education has an annual budget of $68 billion?
I remember hearing that very recently, and I was shocked because it's completely irrelevant, unnecessary agency. All states are funded by, usually property taxes in your jurisdiction and run by the state or the county. And
yeah, that doesn't include state and local education budgets. That's just the
Right.
federal DOE. $68 billion. Where does that money go, folks? Is it going into, like where are the incentives? Is that, if they don't provide quality education, like let's keep it real. It's that money is like pork almost. Like it's going in no matter what. And
yeah, I'm sure a lot of it's being used as like, conditional grants and stuff to try to bribe states to push, critical racist curriculum and any other kind of craziness that the federal government wants to, try to homogenize on all 50 states of America, every school in the country.
Yeah.
Do their best to force the curriculum to whatever they feel should be put into kids' minds.
It's like looking back and
bureaucracy takes up a lot of money and useless people.
Yeah, of that 68 billion, how much do you think actually goes to the quality of education of students?
Probably like less than 1% or a couple percent would be my guess.
Yeah,
if that.
That's probably bullish. That's probably bullish on the Department of Education. But anywho, sad. It's just big sad because the schools are, for the most part, generally speaking, they're failing our kids. And again, back to the family. A lot of people feel the need to throw their kids into daycare right away. They feel the need to throw their kids into whatever school right away because they're too busy generating taxable income trying to keep up with the cost of living.
Right.
Savings is dismal these days. Like, savings is absolutely dismal. Debt has gone straight up. And student loan debt has gone straight up. Let's talk about the fact that student loan debt has eclipsed credit card debt a
Is that
few
right?
years ago. Yeah, yeah, it's way bigger than credit card debt now.
That's pretty wild.
It was a few years ago that student loan debt had eclipsed credit card debt, and of course, credit card debt is blowing up as well.
Hmm.
So it's a racket. It's difficult to make a compelling case that the cost of education is a good investment for most people. I understand that it's a good investment for some people, but most people, it does not appear to be a great investment to go deeply into debt for college.
Hmm. I was going to say, talking about most people, you're also incentivized. If you just look at it in the simplest fashion, you're incentivized to send your kids to public schools because
Of
whether
course,
you like it or
you got to pay
not,
for it anyways, baby.
you're already
Yeah,
paying for it, right?
exactly.
So people that send their kids to private schools, or make the even greater investment of their time to homeschool,
Yeah,
their kids are really choosing their kids over a simple balancing math equation of, oh well, I'm already paying for it.
mm,
So I think that is a wise and loving thing to do.
yeah. What? Wait, wait. Sorry, I lost that. I didn't catch that last part. What's a wise and loving thing to do? What's that?
Just to choose, to
Sure.
prioritize your kids' education over, the scarcity mindset decision of, well, I'm already paying for it,
Mm,
so I might as well send them to the public school.
mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, there's so much to unpack there. I think we'll go ahead and kind of wrap it up just because we're over 30 minutes into the show. But lots of really interesting points when it comes to strengthening the community. How do you do that? Um, and things like education. The incentives are all kind of whack. There's all kinds of incentives that aren't in line with what education should be achieving is what's best for the students in order to deliver a quality education. But instead, there's all kinds of other weird incentives going on, as
Right.
is typical with the fiat standard. There's all kinds of weird whack incentives in this debt based system. So that's kind of yet another reason why we Bitcoin. Personally, I think the strongest top of the list of reasons why I Bitcoin is because I think it's best for my family. I think it's best for my community, best for my friends, best for the businesses that I care about. And so that's
Best for the world, best for the future.
100% for the kids. Like Greg Foss says, it's for the kids. It's the most important thing that we can do in the world to promote a future of opportunity for the next generation instead of just greedily thinking about ourselves and our unfunded liabilities. And so I think it's the most important thing in our time. And that's kind of how I want to sign off. What do you think, Ben? Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, sounds good to me. Everybody wants to, or I think a lot of people, as they get older and think about life more, people want to leave a legacy or leave an impact or whatever for the future. And I think Bitcoin and babies might be the best thing you can leave if you leave sound money and create some quality humans to carry on. Also, one point I forgot that I was going to mention a few minutes ago was I heard on Timcast or something, somebody saying like that indoctrination in and of itself is not, necessarily a moral or immoral thing, but indoctrination is going to happen one way or another. And do you want to have people that are strangers to you, people that have all these perverse incentives that are looking over, dozens and dozens of pupils that they, shuffle through every few months or year, um, you know, taking care of what's going into your kid's mind in their developmental stages? Or do you want to supervise that yourself and, put actual lovingly selected information and wisdom
Truth.
for the future in there?
Truth. Like, truth is the most important thing. Truth and facts
Amen.
and reason. And Bitcoin is a form of truth. And it's an immutable, incorruptible ledger of truth. And so, based on those principles, I think that's what education should be based on: truth and facts and reason. So let's build towards a future where that is honored and respected for the kids. So and also you made me think of one other thing, which is, because we're talking about personal responsibility and doing what's right, I will say this, that Bitcoin is a super tool insofar as I believe it allows us to save. I think it's the best savings vehicle for my time and my energy, my monetary measurement of my work. I think it's best to use this technology, the proof of work. And so what I'm saying is, let me take a step back. What I'm saying is, I think Bitcoin completely changes the game for individuals and for families, etc. And so there's all these incentives working against you, giving you reasons not to start a family and take responsibility, as far as like all these different things that we're touching on.
Right.
I'm not telling anybody what is the right thing to do for themselves, but what I am saying is, when the world is incentivizing you to not do important things that may be important to you, like starting a family, find a way to do what is most important to you. And personally, I think Bitcoin is a technology that helps people reclaim their sovereignty and make decisions for themselves and for their families. I hope that made sense, and that's how I'd like to leave it. I appreciate you coming on the show, Ben. As always, it's been real, and I
Yeah,
had
bro,
fun.
it was a good conversation. We got this one was kind of a philosophical and deep one compared to some of them,
Yeah,
but that's good
I love
stuff.
it. I love it. So yeah, peace, love, and Bitcoins, and
Right, this is not financial or investment or legal advice, but buy some Bitcoin and you know, make some babies with a woman you love and love the
let's go.
babies.
I love that, and subscribe to the channel, and
Smash like.
we'll catch you next Sunday.
All right, thanks everybody for watching. Colby, talk to you soon.
Peace. That was a real one.